appreciate that.
Well, this is gorgeous, and we're going to have a top coat in New York. This is terrific.
We're going to come up to some pretty bad weather later on in the day.
Is that right?
Yeah, so.
Oh, man.
I think we have up to 60, and then it's going to drop down to like 30 something. I don't know what. I can't tell. Bad global warming.
It's so funny. It was in Iowa, and I had a woman, 23, who was my escort. And she said, I don't know how to feel about this because I'm so anti-global warming.
Okay.
But 70 degrees in Iowa this time of year is kind of nice.
It's
so,
so
there's a lot of conflicted people out there about this,
I used hairspray in the 80s, and now I feel so guilty. But do I feel guilty because we have 65-degree temperatures in February?
Exactly.
So I don't know. It's a balance. Now
Yeah.
my great-great-great-grandchildren are going to hate me for having used
Exactly.
it. Anyway, we're talking to Jeffrey Halter. Jeffrey is a gender strategist.
Yes.
Is that, are many people gender strategists? Are you one of few gender strategists? Does your business card say gender strategist?
My business card does say gender strategist.
When you were a kid in 3rd grade and everyone wanted to be firemen, did you want to be a gender strategist?
Yeah, no. I started this 15 years ago. And quite frankly, if you had told me I'd be doing this, I would have laughed at you.
Gender strategy, you mean, as a whole?
Well, I've coined the phrase gender strategist. Yeah,
okay.
I'm about the only one out there in the entire country.
Beautiful.
My background is 20 years in line and sales management, so I'm a business guy.
Okay.
And in 2000, I was running sales training for the Coca-Cola company.
Great.
And we had a $200 million lawsuit, something no company should ever go through. But overnight, I went from running sales training to running diversity education. And I'm a straight white guy, and I wondered what meeting did I not go to get in charge of this project.
Right.
And to compound matters, very awful time in the company. Nobody wants to have a lawsuit. It's, I want to talk to you about later about Uber and what they're going through, talk about our profile. But I started down this path that learned how women and minorities were having vastly different experiences in the workplace that men were totally unaware of. I had what they call...
Were they totally unaware of it?
We don't think about it. We have
That's
no
different.
idea. Yeah,
Okay.
There's no mindfulness.
Okay.
But what's different is I had what they call a white male epiphany, where you realize what white male privilege is and the world revolves around you.
Okay.
And when you have privilege, it's invisible to you. You just aren't aware of it.
Okay.
And I chose to become very active in this space. And that was 15 years ago. I left Coca-Cola 5 years ago to start a company called Why Women, which helps companies develop tightly integrated strategies. Most companies have very disjointed programs. You've got maybe 50 best-in-class companies that know what they're doing.
And what does know what you're doing mean? It's not equal. It's not a 50-50.
No, what it is
quality of upper management.
Yeah, what it is, it's really realigning your organization around a woman's opportunity, getting sales, marketing, supply chain operations, all of the big groups to buy into it.
Yeah.
And then HR becomes an enabler and a strategy, and senior leadership plays their roles, and you have programs and processes to do that. So I help companies create that, measures, metrics, scorecards. We're going to measure this just like a business initiative. And then on the back end, I engage men who are still 85% of senior leaders.
Yeah.
We're 85% of the problem, but we're also 85% of the solution. And that's why women alone cannot fix this problem.
How open are these companies and then subsequently these men to wanting this training, to bring the training in? And are they just doing it, a lot of them doing it to sort of stave off lawsuits?
Yeah. Here's what's fascinating. Today, upwards of 30% of men want to support and advance women.
Oh, nice.
But we don't know what to do. We don't know what it looks like on a daily basis if I'm advocating for you, if I'm supporting you, if I'm coaching you, if I'm mentoring you. And so I work with what I call Ready Now companies via an opt-in strategy which says, we want to be here, we want to get really good at this, help us get there.
These are Fortune 500 companies.
Fortune 500 companies.
These are big
Absolutely.
companies.
GE last week announced they are moving within 5 years, they want to put 20,000 women in technology roles. So it's easy to say that, but then think back of the process of all the hiring all the recruiting, all the advancement that has to take place. IBM came out and said they want to move 35,000 women from staff to customer facing. Oh, by the way, this is all good business because customers are changing. There's women sitting across the desk in technology and defense. Right. And there's some great Harvard research that says you can't show up with a bunch of 42 longs and expect to be successful today. Right. So really progressive companies are figuring this out.
But I guess, and I'm just learning this in the last 8 minutes, I guess, and I don't even know if I'm using the term right, is there a sense of this like reverse sexism where maybe those 20,000 women aren't the best qualified to do the jobs, but they get them because they're women, and as a woman, I don't even know how I feel about that.
Yeah, here's the burden. It puts the challenge on a company to say, I want to advance 20,000 women. That does not say I'm going to just go hire 20,000 unqualified women.
Okay. Is that 20,000? Is that 20,000 of like 40,000 jobs?
Oh no, GE probably has. I'm speculating 300,000 employees. They're one of the largest employers in the country. But this is specifically targeted
in this technology. Like, are they looking to
roles.
hire 20? Is it 20,000 new roles, and they're looking to fill 100% of them with women, or is it 50% with women?
I will tell you their numbers are not. It's probably a 50% increase. My guess is they're at 10,000. Okay. They want to move to 20,000. What's important is you have a company making a claim, and somebody's going to hold them accountable.
Right.
Well, to do that, all of your programs and processes have to be right.
Sure.
I know you're a big sports person. The NFL has the Rooney Rule, which says, one of your candidates has to be a minority. Well, what that says is that's not a pass, and we're going to hire you just because you're a minority, but you have to have equal qualifications. So think about this now. If I'm a hiring manager and I go to talent acquisition and I know I need a diverse pool of candidates, you have to go find me a woman with 10 years experience, with 5 years of leadership, blah, 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 blah. So it puts pressure on the system. Good news, bad news. These companies are going to be employers of choice.
Yeah.
There's some macro trends going on around why now. Because we've been talking about this for 10 years, 15 years.
Years and years and years.
4 things. 10,000 boomers a day are leaving the workforce. It's going to continue for 7 years. All old white men, just like me.
And you
10,000 boomers
a
day.
I'm literally 2 days. I was born 2 days before the end of the baby boom.
There you go.
The official end of the baby boom.
Women and minorities are 85% of the talent pipeline today. So new entries into the workforce.
Yep.
Women are getting 60% of the masters, 58% of the bachelors, 45% of the MBAs. So if you need bright, talented workers, chances are they're women. And then you've got millennials. And millennials are really upsetting the apple cart because they don't want to go to work for you. They don't want to go to work for some big brick and mortar monolith.
Yeah.
And so it's not just let's promote women, it's these huge macro trends. There is really a war for talent going on today in this country. I was at a tech conference. IBM said that cybersecurity today needs 400,000 people. And you have to be a US-born citizen to get these jobs. So they can't outsource it.
Yeah.
So there are huge pockets of opportunity. And companies, smart companies, are doing anything they can to attract, develop, and retain and advance women.
You talked about something that was really interesting. It's not just about women helping women, it's about men helping women. And you said that they're pretty open to it when you go in. I mean, is this a re-education process?
I think I think upwards of 30% want to do this. And believe it or not, and all of your female viewers are going to look at me like I'm just nuts. I'm a young boomer. I lead a very siloed life. Unless there's something on my day timer that said go to this or go to that, I put my head down and worked. Yet I wanted to raise a strong daughter. So I supported her in soccer or dance. I made sure she went to a great college. But when my daughter graduates and makes 83 cents to my son, I choose to do nothing. Because I've never made the connection that if I'm not advocating for women today, what is my daughter going to inherit? And so this is this notion I talk about head and heart. 80% is the business case, all that other stuff I talked about. The men who are stepping up to do this work are fathers of daughters who realize they have a responsibility. The Audi ad that just aired at the Super Bowl was amazing. Right, they talked about, this was the little girl in the go-kart going downhill, and they've caught a lot of flack about it from women, from men. I have to tell you, young girls love that ad.
Yeah.
And it demonstrates equity, but it also demonstrates a company that's saying, we are supportive of this. At the same time, they came out and said, look, we only have women in 11% of executive roles, but we're going to move there. So hopefully the proof is there. But the flip side is women buy or influence 70% of car purchases. So this isn't just an altruistic, promote women thing.
Right.
There's a bottom line connection to all of this.
Tell me about what's happening with Uber right now. Why it bothers you?
Uber's really fascinating. You have, I see this as groundbreaking, and not the fact that it's just gender discrimination. Goldman's had it. All kinds of companies have had it. Tons of companies have had it. Here's what's different.
And this is a woman felt like she was sexually harassed, complained to upper management. Nothing happened because it was his first offense.
Well, yeah, and basically HR covered it up.
Right.
So you've got a number of things going on that are kind of first-time incidents. Number one, you've got a CEO who basically said, I don't know what's going on in my company, which is always bad. Yeah. And so this came to light. Number two, you have HR being culpable. Everybody thinks HR is the employee's friend. No, HR works for the company. Their job is to protect the company.
Yeah.
The third dynamic that is so real today is social media. The EEOC says 70% of sexual harassment is never reported because people are afraid of retaliation. Yeah. But with social media, sexual harassment is going to go off the rails because people can now report this. You've got 4, Arianna Huffington, high-profile board member, saying we're going to hold Uber's feet to the fire. My question is, and I adore this woman, but what was the board doing for the last 5 years? Because the fifth point is this is not new news. The tech, Silicon Valley 5 years ago said our numbers are horrible. We're going to do something about it. Well, doesn't somebody at the board of directors level say, what are you doing? What do your numbers look like? Right. And what do regrettable losses look like around women?
How much does this end up hurting Uber?
It's hard to say. He has done everything right, which says bring in third party. We're going to get to the bottom of it. That's a whole nother story. Right. But what's fascinating is I think they're taking the right approach, which is we're going to demonstrate transparency. We're going to take action. Most leaders don't want to take that really hard step. They want to push it down. Uber realizes they're a social media company. People are talking about them. But the thing you mentioned, and I'm a business consultant. I don't do politics. But what's different today, this is the other thing about Uber. When I was raised, we said you don't talk about sex, religion, or politics in the workplace. Whether you like it or not, what's going on in Washington, on both sides, is forcing a gender conversation in the workplace. And companies need a point of view. And most senior leaders aren't ready to have that conversation.
Understandably, because it's a very, very hot topic.
Yes.
Because if they do, they're either pissing off one side or the other in a vast way. And as we discuss all the time, there's no middle ground. You're one way or you're the other way, and it'll get you in trouble, so you're better off not being in.
Well, and that's from a politics standpoint, but what leaders can do is genuinely listen to what's going on in their organizations. That's probably what Uber is most guilty of. It's just not listening. Employee resource groups are very common in a lot of companies. Well, they've moved to business resource groups, but now smart companies are saying, be the voice of women. Smart leaders are saying, I don't know what's going on in my company. My senior leadership team is not telling me what's going on. So CEOs are coming to the women's resource groups saying, give me the collective point of view of women, and what do I need to change? So this is the big step change that's taking place in 40 or 50 companies. I'm not saying that's the bulk of the Fortune 500, but it's a needed, necessary conversation today.
I agree, and I think politics finds its way in with so many women's issues right now at the forefront, and you hear about it because everybody's marching or demonstrating or putting on rallies or whatnot because they want to be heard, and you'd be taking a blind eye if you're the president of a company, the CEO of a
Absolutely.
company.
You need a point of view.
Right.
And the worst thing that could happen is somebody sticks a microphone in some senior leader's, face and says, "What do you think about this women's issue?" And they say or do the wrong thing.
Right.
So this is where the organization. This gets back to where we started this whole integrated strategy, where everyone understands all the puts and takes around how to make this work. This isn't just an HR thing.
Yeah.
This is a leadership imperative, and that's the work that I do and talk about.
We're talking to Jeffrey Halter, who's a gender strategist, self-proclaimed.
Self-proclaimed.
You talk about the tipping point. Explain to people what the tipping point is.
The tipping point, obviously the Malcolm Gladwell folks know what a tipping point is, but it's really when a movement reaches a point where it can no longer be contained and it goes crazy and it goes mainstream. I believe women have reached a tipping point in this country for a couple reasons. Number one, we really haven't made progress in corporate America for about 15 years. A lot of initiatives in the early 2000s, but hey, it's 2017. So our numbers are still really stagnant. Number two, you have a bunch of angry women who are now collectively raising their voices.
Madonna, sorry, go on.
Well, separate and
So
aside,
angry.
separate and aside from celebrities, these are women in mainstream America marching, talking. That is going to turn its way into real conversations in organizations. And again, I'm a business strategist, so I'm not talking Women's March, pro-life, pro-choice. Corporations are going to have to choose to deal with this. They're going to roll into, so now we've had the Million Women March.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of Black History Month. Organizations now have to, quite frankly, have a real conversation around race that they haven't wanted to before, because people are marching. And we're going to roll into March, Women's History Month. Everybody's going to hang a banner up and celebrate women. I don't believe women are going to sit passively by an organization and say, let's do one more party. Like, let's bring in a speaker, let's pop some champagne and say, hey, what a great company this is for women. I think women are going to ask really tough questions. And every time something happens in social media, an Uber, something out of Washington, the conversation is only going to escalate. To what point? I don't know yet, but I believe it's a point where women are seizing their collective voices. And this is what's really important. You've got, in New York, you probably have 250 women's groups. I'm from Atlanta. We have 100 women's groups. When women realize the collective power that they have, it's game, set, match.
Okay.
They're not realizing that yet, but that day is coming. So.
We keep talking about this movement and we keep talking about what we're doing now, but can you put some idea on what kind of time frame we're looking at when we can actually see some real inroads and some dents in this?
You will probably start to see some form of movement. Sadly, it's going to be about 5 years, I think. That's when the boomers that we talked about leaving the workforce are finally going to be gone. Most of them will be gone.
Okay.
You have the bulk of middle management today in many companies is in fact women. So they're going to start to rise if companies have done a good job retaining them.
Okay.
Now what's sad is women are still not going to be getting to C-suite in the same numbers for a whole host of reasons. They don't have operating experience, they're not in the right roles, they don't move up in equitable positions.
Yeah.
Smart companies are promoting more of them. It needs a cohesive strategy. It will change over time. I think Silicon Valley is a great place to start that change. They've been talking about it for 5 years. You've got Cheryl, you've got Melissa, regardless of what's going on with their businesses. Again, this is women collectively realizing the voices that they have.
I'm fascinated by TED Talks.
Mm-hmm.
You've done a couple already. Is this one of the issues that you've talked about?
My last TED Talk is called We Need to Stop Asking Women to Lean In, and we need to ask men to stand up.
Tell me about it.
What I'm saying is, with all due respect to Sheryl Sandberg, it implies that we have to either fix women or you can solve this by yourself. The point is you can't. As long as we men are in charge of organizations, you have to have active male engagement. it's time for men to stand up. It links back to this father-daughter initiative. It links back to very progressive senior leaders realizing their responsibility. I'll throw two out there. Bob Moritz from PwC, very vocal, active leader talking about advancing women. Father of a daughter. Muhtar Kent, Coca-Cola, father of a daughter, just signed the Paradigm for Parity, which says by 2030, he wants women in 50% of operating roles, not staff roles, operating roles. That's a huge step change.
Yeah.
The change that is being driven in organizations is by very bright men, because men are 95% of CEOs, not 85%,
Sure.
95%. But I believe they're raising really strong daughters who are saying, Dad, don't you have like 300,000 people working for you? What are you doing for women?
Right. What have, and I would imagine you've either spoken to or come in contact with a number of powerful women, the Cheryls and Melissas and all of them in the world. What is their response? Do they want your help? Do they think that the problem is we need help from men, or we can do it on our own?
Full transparency, I've never met Cheryl or Melissa. What I believe they would say would be in 100% congruence. This will never be solved by one gender or the other. It is about our collectiveness coming together to really talk about the issues. Part of my work is a 4-step process, right? Everybody's got their you got 10 steps and everything else. Here's my 4 steps. Leaders, men and women, need to listen, learn, lead, and then have the will to act. The first and most important one is listen. Senior leaders believe they know what is going on in their organizations. I can tell you they don't. I do work for a major pharma company. I was in a room with 60 women with PhDs, the smartest women you've ever met. Biology, chemistry, I don't even know this stuff they're researching. I told them I was going to go have lunch with their senior leaders. Did they have anything they would like to share with me? And they talked for an hour. And they talked about subtle biases, about their research being double-checked, about their voices being talked over, about just being assumed that they would take administrative roles. These were brilliant women. It's not 1960s Mad Men, but gender bias is alive in organizations. It's just very subtle. So organizations need to start by having very genuine conversations. And I need to know what's important to you. Because what's important to you is not the same as Susan or anyone else. And that's why this is so hard. If it was easy, we would have solved it a long time ago. We've had brilliant people working on this. It's 16 different things that have to come together to create an amazing place for women, minorities, and men.
This and the Middle East peace process, it's like the
There you
exact
go.
same thing. Tell me about Why Women.
Sure, my book, Why Women, The Leadership Imperative to Advancing Women and Engaging Men, basically is a step-by-step guide on how organizations can reinvent themselves around women. And it uses a lot of best examples of Fortune 500 companies that are doing that well.
It's for the business owner?
It's for senior leaders,
Okay.
ideally men, to read this book written by another old white guy to say, here's what you don't understand. Most of my talks are to women, because it's very tough to get 600 men in a room to talk about this.
Yeah.
To educate them, not in a manipulative way, but how do you go back and engage in a really strategic conversation in your organization. For men, that's business case, business case, business case, business case, father of daughter. We need to understand why this is a business priority.
I know your daughter's young. Is she proud of what you're doing?
Actually, my daughter's 30.
Oh, I thought she was 12.
No. I've got a, no.
Did I miss that completely? I'm sorry.
Perhaps. My daughter's in education. She's not a business person.
Okay.
I will tell you she's very proud of what her father's doing.
I'm proud of you, and like, you're not even
Thank
my
you.
dad.
I appreciate that.
Like, go you.
I appreciate that.
I think it's fantastic.
So, thank you.
You're on the road a lot. Where's the next, where are you off to after?
Really fascinating. My new BFF, my favorite customer, I'm going to Napa next week for Women of the Vine. It's 800 women in the wine and spirit industry, and we talk about solving women's leadership and drink wine. But
I mean,
2 weeks
you need
after,
an assistant? Or how does that
2
work?
weeks after that, I'm in Moline, Illinois, so it's not all
Okay.
glamorous, and then San Antonio. This topic is red hot, and I am so blessed to be doing this work because what it tells me is companies are ready to have a meaningful conversation. They're tired of giving it lip service, and they want to know what to do.
If someone wants to get in touch with you, how do they best do that?
Go to my website, www, the letter Y, not WHY, but Y, which stands for the Y chromosome.
Okay.
So ywomen.biz.
Beautiful.
Follow me on social media at ywomen. I'm all over social media. I blog, I tweet. I meet amazing people every day.
I will be following you 5 minutes after you walk out of here.
Thank you.
Jeffrey Halter, thank you so much. I'm so fascinated by the work you're doing and that you continue to do. And 5 years from now, you're going to come back and you're going to be like, I told you so, Jenna.
I hope so.
5 years.
Hope so.
I told you so. I would shake your hand, a little bit of a cold.
No problem.
We're not going to do it. Next time we shake, we hug it out. It's going to all be good. Check them out. It's really fascinating stuff that I didn't even know was going on. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come right back. Awesome. Good
Thank
stuff.
you. That's what I do.
It's great.
I
It's
tell
like-
this
still
story
live.
2 men.
Yeah.
Oh,
For another minute.
That's okay.
I tell this story to men all the time because there are actually my peer group. I have to tell you, 15 years ago when I started doing this, was just like, dude, what do you do?